My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first, call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee with your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 an order. Additional terms apply.
Hi guys, welcome to this week's episode of Heavy Metal Tones with me, your podcast host Tony Evans. Back to the land of album reviews. Thank goodness. Last week's episode was just a bit of fun free for me. I quite enjoyed it. I know it wasn't the best listened episode, but hey, look, sometimes you've got to just go with the flow. But so I thought, firstly, I would give a little bit of a shout out. I have decided to start a Patreon page. Now, this Patreon page is not going to have any extras on it as yet. It's just going to be if you want to donate monthly to the show. If you can afford it, it's $5. I had no choice. I couldn't make it any less, unfortunately. Just so that I can keep the lights on in the show, basically, because I've got to pay for all of the downloading, all of the hosting, and all that sort of stuff. And at the moment, it would all be very helpful if you'd like to help out. If you do want to do that, and of course, if you don't, that's perfectly fine. I'm still going to make this product, the show. It's just so that if you feel like you want to, you can. Just go to Patreon/ Heavy Metal Tones Podcast. That's one word, but it's capital H. Heavy Metal Tones Podcasts on Patreon, and like and join. You will get a shout out on the show for new subscribers. Again, it will still go ahead whether I get none or 100. Doesn't matter. It's just so I'm trying to add a bit more to the show. By doing that, I need to make a little bit of income from it. So anyway. That aside, that's the horrible shill bit out where I'm selling my soul to the almighty dollar. But now back to the best bits of the show. So I'll also put that link in the show notes below, by the way, guys. We're going to start off. This week's episode is something I haven't done for ages, and it's a genre that I absolutely love. And I came across this particular band we're going to talk about, Castle, that is. About 3 months ago, it came across my desk as part of my review process for Metal Ruse, and I put it on the list for people to review. And I had a listen, and I fell in love with it. But at the moment, at that particular time, what was going on with my dad and with work and with life, I couldn't commit to writing the review, even though I wanted to. So I just put it on the list, and I kept listening to it. And I thought I'd review it, but I thought I'd wait till it was released. And it got released on the 6th of September, which is, as of this recording, 3 days ago, 2024. And so I do love Doom, right? I love the... if you want to have a listen to my episode called Doom, 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 that was a really popular episode, actually. Everyone who loves heavy metal will most likely say they do have a soft spot for Black Sabbath, right? And that clearly, they are the progenitors of doom, really. They really are. And that sort of heavy, slow, cold riffage, that sort of epic, sort of echoing solos, the sort of the dark void and space in between, the sort of it's not genuinely a music that often is uplifting. But this band seemed to do it. We'll talk about that when we get to it. But it's got a real sort of, like, what I love about the energy of Doom is that it's not a million note solos. It's not going at breakneck speed. It sort of gives you time to really. It's one of the only sort of true heavy metal genres that gives you that groove. Now, people will say that you get that in metalcore and you get that in nu metal. I don't. You probably do, but I feel you can really hanker in to a doom riff and a doom track. So I love Witch Skulls. Why I love Candlemass. Why I love it's a genre that I do go back to quite a lot, but I don't talk about it a lot, which is I probably should do more. This is a slightly different for me because it's a female singer, and so I then went down a rabbit hole of looking for female vocalists in doom bands, and there's a lot of them. Okay, and I'm going to give you. I've got about, hang on, where is it? About 4 or 5, which I'll talk about that I came across once I was sort of digging into it, and a lot of them sadly have only made one album, maybe 2, not many. One of them has only recorded, it was 10 years ago in the last record that came out, which is a shame because it's actually really, really good. And I think female vocals lays itself well for doom because it has, if it's done correctly, it can be quite operatic, quite eerie, quite serene, surreal, scary, even emotionless in some kind of odd way. And that's what I also like about doom is that because it's looking at the dark side of the music of heavy metal, the real darkish side, not the black metal and the satanic stuff. That that has its place, but doom has this sort of like real, it taps into those areas in the brain for me particularly. And because of what I've been going through mentally recently, I have tried to stay away from it, being more positive music where I can, but this sort of music does help me heal. I've been playing it constantly now for the last 5 or 6 days, this album, and it has really, I don't know, it sort of helped me feel a little bit better, strangely. I'm still going through a rough patch, and I do, as I said last week, anyone that's having these problems, do reach out to someone. I have, and it has made a big difference. So, reach out, whether it's grief counselling, whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression, whatever, just reach out because there's always someone there. Anyway, that aside, this band Castle. So Castle are from America, okay, originally from Joshua Tree. And they now live in Vancouver and in San Francisco. They're a 3-piece band. They're mainly a 2-piece band. They're Elizabeth Blackwell on bass and vocals, and then Matt Davis on guitar and vocals. And then they get drummers in to do the live sessions, and they do have a session drummer as well. And they've been going since 2009. And they've been really successful in the underground doom scene. They were on a German label on Van Records, and they have had several albums out. Witch Order was their first album, which was considered the doom album of the year by Norwegian, the Norwegian version of Metal Hammer, which is pretty good. If you think about Norway, they know their metal over there, right? They were best newcomers at the at a festival that they were in, where they were at Roadburn. They were considered best newcomers. That was they played their festival in London and Berlin. They've toured with Sword. They did a 200-date tour to back their second album, which was recorded at Sharkbite Studios in Oakland, California. Produced by all their first that was Blacklands, by the way, was the second album. All their albums were produced by Billy Anderson. Okay. Now Billy Anderson is known. He's done so much stuff. Okay, you can hear it when you listen to his the early albums. He's basically done. He's done. I Hate God, Cattle Decapitation. I can't say that. Orange Goblin, you name it, he's done them, right? And so the first few albums, so they did in order. It's Witch Order 2011, Blacklands 2012, Under Siege 2014, Welcome to the Graveyard 2016, Deal the Fate 2018, and then a big gap till now with Evil Remains. Evil Remains is produced by a different producer though, and we'll get talk about that on the other side. But Billy Anderson did all the others, and you can really feel because they produced one producer, they will have a real sort of embedded sound. So when they got to the latest album, Evil Remains, the sound has changed dramatically from Witch Order. It has changed as it goes. I mean, some of them is very thrashy sounding, some it's very New Album sounding, some as it's. I mean, they have their own particular sound, of course, but Billy Anderson sort of holds that. I love it when a producer does a band's catalogue. People say that's restrictive. I don't think so. I think a good producer then knows how to get the sound that the band can make. If you chop and change producers all the time, you can end up getting an awkward, disparate album catalogue, I think. And it's not always the case, but I find most of the time it is. But yes, so they're a three-piece band. On guitar, we've got Matt Davis, and vocals, but only occasionally sort of back vocals, mixed vocals. And on bass and front vocals, we have Elizabeth Blackwell. Now, I'm going to say this right off the bat. I can't believe I'm saying this because I've only been listening to this album a few months, but she's vastly become one of my favourite female singers at the moment, basically, particularly around the doom sound, of course, you know what I mean? Like, obviously different genres. My favourite extreme vocalist is Fernanda Lira from Crypta, but of course for doom right now, Elizabeth Blackwell. I cannot believe that they're not as big as they could be. I know that there's a deliciousness to loving underground music, and I do love underground music because it's that sort of I found it's mine, leave it alone, don't ruin it kind of feel that the Pistols had in 77 and Maiden would have had possibly in 1980, and when fans were feeling that way, you know. But I just think they should they really should be bigger than they are, because it isn't doom. I don't want to give too much away about, because we're going to review the album on the other side, but it isn't traditional doom, this album. It is a little more easier access. It's not like your extreme operatic madness of say Candlemass or Saint Vitus, or even my favourite Aussie band, you know, Witch Skull. It's not as sometimes Witch Skull can be a little bit impenetrable in their vocal, and you know, so that's not a slight on them. That's just the way they make their music, and I love that. But this is a bit more. I hate to use the word commercial, because that it just doesn't. It doesn't really mean. I don't mean it that way, because it's not an album that would suddenly become number one, if you know what I mean, or top 10. It is an acquired taste. Even amongst metal fans, doom is an acquired taste, and particularly female singers in metal bands. For some reason, there's still a little bit of a sort of biased towards female singers in metal bands, and I know that they say there isn't, and if you listen to my catalogue of my shows, if you're new to the show, you'll know that I'm very, very pro female singers, very in bands in general. I think that there should be no gender in music, and I just think that there's still a little bit of that kind of, the Spinal Tap bit where he says, they were looking at it's lots of men in the audience because the girls are worried they don't want to they see us with snakes in their pants, and it scares them. That I've misquoted Spinal Tap there, but you understand where I'm coming from. This album has a good mix, and the band itself has a good mix of sounds. It sounds like Sabbath, it sounds like Orange Goblin. I love Orange Goblin. It sounds like Sword, but it also sounds like Ministry. It's a really interesting crossover-y band in that respect, and they have grown from the first album, which is really doomy, to this later one where they sort of, I don't think they're chasing the commercial. In fact, they're not. They're not chasing the commercial dollar. Of course, every band wants to make money. That has to be the case, doesn't it? Because we're not, not all of us can live and just by art alone, right? History will tell us that most people who think that will die of starvation, right? And in poverty and things like that. So you have to earn some money because you want to keep making music, because studios are expensive, producers are expensive, tours are expensive, art is expensive, production of the albums are expensive, even though these days are limited runs. I just bought myself the cassette and coloured vinyl. It's on its way. They're limited runs these days, so even streaming costs. Don't get much. They get nothing from streaming, right? So it is you have to be a little bit more commercial sometimes. And I think they're just growing a little bit. They're definitely growing. If you listen to the first album, listen to this album, the growth is quite phenomenal, actually. This is their best produced album, I think, of late. Even though it's a different producer, I think it has a more dynamic feel to it, to be honest. Anyway, that's the introduction to the band. The band is Castle. The album is Evil Remains. It's their latest album after a 6-year gap. It's their sixth album. Hang on, is it 1, 2, 3? Yeah, 6th album. Recorded at a different studio this time round as well. Recorded at Hellbound. Oh no, Deal of Fate was recorded at Hellbound Studios. Also, a bit of annoyance. You can't hear Deal Thy Fate on streaming. It's not there. I looked on Apple. I looked on Spotify. It could be on other streaming platforms which are available, but it's not there. So I'm gonna have to order it somehow because I haven't heard it, and that really annoys me. So I'm gonna see if I can get a copy of it. I don't want to go on YouTube and do it because that's just, I don't know. I just don't like the way that particular platform works for music. But I will definitely look for it. If anyone has heard it or knows where you can get it, let me know, because I would love to listen to it. If the band is listening to this, get in touch with me. Let me know where I can get a copy of it. Yeah. Okay. So into the break, dear friends, and a warm cup of tea. And we'll go track by track on this amazing album, a little bit more history of it. Talk to you on the other side, guys. Bye for now.
At BlueNile.com, you can find endless ways to make your moments sparkle. From classic and timeless jewelry gifts to creating the custom engagement ring of her dreams. All at prices you won't find at a traditional jeweler. And right now, you can save up to 40% on fine jewelry and 25% on engagement ring settings during the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale, going on now. Go to BlueNile.com to shop the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale and save up to 40%. That's BlueNile.com.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous two-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Welcome back, guys, to part 2. This look into modern Doom's elite. I think they definitely are amongst the new vanguard of Doom bands, and I know that they've been going since 2009. So saying they're new, it's not true. That to most of us, they're new. All right, to its fact, to their loyal fan base, I'm sure they're not, of course. But this is the latest album, released on the 6th of September 2024, 3 days ago as a recording of this show, Evil Remains. Now, as I said before, this Castle album was not produced by Billy Anderson. It's produced by Jess Gardner. Now, he is a completely different kind of producer because he's more produced sort of punk and hardcore music. So when you listen to this album, you'll hear that it's a little bit more dynamic in its structure and its mix. It was recorded over a 5-year break that they had while they were living in Joshua Tree in California. It is recorded in San Francisco and Vancouver, so because they live in the two cities, in 2 countries. The lineup of the album, it's a nice quick album. Okay, so it's not. You don't put it on and then spend half your day trying to listen to it. I do love albums that you can walk away after 40 minutes. It's a sweet spot for me. And the track listing is Queen of Death, Nosferatu Nights, which is the latest single, Deja Voodoo, Evil Remains, Black Spell, which was a single, 100 Eyes, which was a single, She, and Cold Grave. Now, I was talking earlier about bands that sound similar, okay? So I'm just going to quickly mention them now before we get into the whole album. If you've got a pen and paper, please write them down. If not, I will put them in the show notes, okay? I'm definitely going to. There's several bands. So Christian Mistress, their album To Your Death. Witch Crier, C-R-Y-E-R, Witch Crier, one word. The album is Where the Gods Come For You. And there's a Melbourne band called The Devil Electric, and Godless is the album. I really like them. They're very different. And then there's Smolder. They're more like a Northern band more than a Doom band, but they still have this real feel of fun to them. And their album is Violent Creed of Vengeance. And if you like if you like Kurith Ungol, you're going to like them. And then the one I'm really fascinated with is two female band members in a band called The Oath. And the album's called The Oath. They only released one album. So The Oath. Again, these are all available on streaming. get to them. I almost swore there. They're fantastic. I really loved them. I was like, oh my God, something new to listen to. And I've been going down that rabbit hole. Also, a band called Tanith, which is a bit more of a hard rock, heavy rock band with a little bit of doom overtones. And Voyage is their album. Now, these are just a few of the bands which I've been listening to because of Castle. And this is what makes doing this program so much fun, is that you just find new stuff constantly, and then you go down different rabbit holes, and you've got, it's never ending. And I hope that you guys are getting the same out of the show as I do putting into it, and you're going to listen to new stuff and get some idea. I've had some fantastic feedback saying that's what you guys do, and I know that Mark, a long-term listener, Mark, hello Mark, he loves listening to new stuff that I recommend. So that sort of gives me a lot of positive feelings when I do it. So it gives me a lift. So please do dive down that rabbit hole and give these bands your cents when you listen to their streaming. They only get probably a couple of pennies, but hey, some of them have only got like 150 to 200 monthly download followers. I find that astounding. I just find it absolutely astounding. So get on there, boost their listening. Yes, they may not be around anymore, but give them a little bit of an ego boost, as they should. So we start the album, Queen of Death. Now, what have I written here? Now, okay, I'm going to be honest. The lyrics I haven't got yet because I can't get them on the streaming platform. I can't find them. I'm waiting for the album to come. I don't want to wait 2 months possibly for the album to arrive for me to do this album. I just want to do it. So I will be mentioning the lyric passingly occasionally. I know a lot of you guys like me talking about the lyrics, but this is more just about the album itself, I think, here. Queen of Death opens up, and what a dramatic, fast, traditional doom this track is, right? It's right off the bat, it draws you in. It's a brilliant opening track. Both vocals of Matt and Elizabeth are mixed very sort of strongly. There's this sort of like wonderful crossover, dual layered vocal. It's very Sabbathy. It's got a catchy lyric. It's what modern doom is all about. It's got a funereal pace, which I love about doom. But it's also mixed with some really fast Slayer-esque kind of thrash. So that, the influence, and they've said that Slayer is one of their influences. I've read that somewhere. It's quite a rebellious sound to me. For though some doom lovers, traditional doom lovers, are not going to like this. Those that are sit there with a doobie and or some acid and listen to music that's so slow you could go out, have a cup of tea in a cafe, come back and you still haven't got through the first chorus. They're not going to like this. But so this is a modern vanguard doom band, right? And I love the lyric. There is a great lyric here. It says, Queen of Death, the evil one, she is calling you to the midnight sun. It's very catchy. I mean, if you like Sword, and if you like Witch Skull, actually, I know Witch Skull came out after this band, but if you like Witch Skull, you're going to really dig this vocal line here, right? Really catchy. It's really... Oh, God, it's got a beautiful riff to it. And, the good thing about this band is there's no million note solos that take over everything, which I really like. There are solos, and I'll talk about that throughout the album. But they're not... What they do is, what Matt does is he punctuates the riff, like the sort of Sabbath-esque riff, with these lovely high notes, these sort of eerie punctuated notes. It's more about a sound effect and adding to the song than showing off his pyrotechnical guitar skills, which again, I really dig. And so as an opener, Queen of Death, I would have made it a single, personally. In fact, they're all worth singles, but I would have made it a single. I think it's just a brilliant... Sometimes opening tracks on albums can be disappointing. I'm looking at you, Iron Maiden, of late. It can be a little bit... and then you have to sum up the energy to try, keep going, that it's going to get better, right? But this one starts off at a like a bullet at a gate, right? Really, really does. And When you do get the solo vocals of Elizabeth, and she is one of my favourite vocalists at the moment, it's mixed back in the mix. Now, I really appreciate this, that throughout the album, you will notice that Elizabeth's vocals are mixed in different ways. It's not just the same. This one, to create that eerie sense of death and almost like, because a lot of their lyrics and songs are based around books and movies, horror movies, and this really does have a sort of it has a sort of Poe-esque feel, a very Roger Corman-esque, Mask of the Red Death, Fall of the House of Usher, Pit and the Pendulum, the Black Cat, has that kind of Renaissance, also like a very Mario Bava, very much like his movies, with Barbara Steele in them. And I'm a horror movie fan, so you can see why I would see these links. But they're like, it's like listening to the soundtrack of a modern Mario Bava movie or a Roger Corman movie or one of those fantastic 60s Italian directors that made such sort of slick and interesting gothic horror. It's not Hammer. Hammer is too swinging 60s garish London, right? This is a bit more eerie, a little bit more cobweb laden, if you know what I mean, right? Black Sunday, the Mario Bava movie, that's what I was trying to think of. It reminds me of that, with the poster with Barbara Steele, when she said the spiked mask hammered into her face, and then they take it off when she comes back from the dead, and it's the holes on her face. Brilliant. I highly recommend seeing those movies. If you've never done that, please do go and have a watch. You can get them on most streaming platforms now, and on YouTube if you have to. Anyway, brilliant opening song. Very dramatic, very theatrical, very, very textured, right? And then we move to the latest single, Nosferatu Nights. Now, this isn't about Nosferatu, the movie, although it is my favourite horror movie of them all, in fact, all versions. I'm quite excited about the new ones coming out in December this year, 2024, with Skarsgård playing Orlok. I'm very excited by it, as long as they don't butcher it, because for me, the Max Ernst is a painter. The Max Schreck original, is a version of him is brilliant, and of course, Klaus Kinski's adaptation version of the vampire in Werner Herzog's 77 remake is a thing of beauty. So let's hope Skarsgård can do it. So as I said, I don't think this is about that, because Nosferatu means undead nights. I think it's I mean, again, I haven't really had a chance to listen to the lyric thoroughly, but it doesn't, when I have listened to it, I haven't thought about it as based around the movie. I think it's just about long, soulless nights and having your soul taken, by someone who should love you, I think. And sorry, Elizabeth and Matt, who wrote the lyrics, if I'm wrong. This is how I adapt some of my thoughts about it. Here, her vocal is mixed back in it, right, quite back in this eerie, supernatural way. I think this is the band really stretching their wings and getting their fingers into a real theatrical sound. It's got a real 70s doom-laden, very Sabbath. I keep saying about Sabbath, very Sabbath-esque sound to it. It's, it has got a solo in it right at the beginning, but it's not a pyrotechnic solo. It's just enough to go, right, okay, I see your talent. And here, this song here is where we start to get the unbelievably amazing time changes that this band brings to this album. They did it a bit in Queen of Death. They really bring it into this one. I've not heard a band have this dynamic amount of time changes outside of Iron Maiden in such a long time, without effortlessly going fast, slow, intermediate, fast, slow, real punctuation. It's very clever. they really excel at this. And also it's a really bloody groovy song. It's really groovy. The bridge here is something. I'm sorry, you have to hear it to go, well, I wish I could have written that. Really, really, it's something. I can't work it out why it's so good, but it works. And again, it's dynamic. It's a bloody classic single. It's very listenable. It's very repeatable. So the whole album for me is easily repeatable. I could easily listen to the album over and over again through over several days. I can't say that about a lot of albums that have come out recently because they're overthought. A lot of the new stuff, it's over produced. It's far too long. It doesn't know its direction. Whereas this band clearly knows where they're going within their genre, and I feel that a lot of bands will, if they listen to this sort of music, if you're a Doom fan, will go, wow, that's the way I want to go, because it's really clever stuff. They genuinely know their stuff. And then we're going to move on to Deja Voodoo. This opens with some very heavy bass. Now, I haven't mentioned this yet, but the musicianship on this album is very, very good. Now, it's because it's mixed and produced well. There's not many fingers in the pie, so you know that the two of them are working on it mainly. So it's a really intense sound. And Elizabeth's bass playing, another thing I know it sounds, I love female bass players that sing. I really do. Fernanda Lira, Elizabeth Blackwell, one of the latest ones. I mean, Susie Quattro, another good example, right? I just do. I just love it. And she brings to this track some really, and I think it's picked, I don't think it's fingered, this real down-tuned, sludgy, dark, heavy, voluminous, cavernous-like bass line. It's really deep. And Elizabeth's vocals punctuate the bass with this sort of her now trademark eerie siren-esque vocal. Every word is enunciated beautifully. There's no gabbling. There's no black vocals which are, you have to decipher. It's there for you to enjoy. And this kind of band is the kind of band where you go back every time you listen to the album and you listen to something different. Like the first time I listened to it in whole. Second time I listened to the guitar only. Then I listened to the bass and vocals. Then I listened to the drums and listened to the whole again. And I focus on these different parts, which is what I often do anyway, as part of my breaking an album down to listen to. Not just to review, but just to listen to. And her bass and vocals on this particular track are some of the best on the album. It has got a real Siren of the Night vibe, slow changes to fast changes. It's got this almost impenetrable riff, thick and dense, and it arrives just when you need it. And it's a wall of sound, but it's also really funky. And not many metal tracks you can say are funky, but this album in general has a real funk to it, a real groove to it. Has a real, it's got a real melody to it, which is something that lacks in the aggressive forms of music we are listening to. Is melody. And now people say, "Oh, but it's there. I can hear it." Yeah, can you? I'm not sure I can hear melody in Cannibal Corpse, to be honest with you, or Cattle Decapitation, or those really extreme bands. They might say there's melody, but I can't really hear it. And this band brings it. It's one of the reasons I love Priest and Maiden and New Wave of British Heavy Metal in general, because that genre is quite melodic, and I like that aspect. It's got, and I've written here now. I wrote this when I listened to it on the fourth time round. I got, this could be a James Bond theme. It has a real sound like Live and Let Die. It's got a real Beatlesque Wings kind of vibe in its melody. I really could see it. I could see it being a James Bond theme. So I don't think anyone is listening to this show that is got anything to do with James Bond. But if you're going to do it, listen to if you are, and hello, listen to this show. Listen to this, and tell me you don't think it sounds like a James Bond theme song, because it bloody well should. And that's not a derivative thing. That's not having a go at them. Not derivative. That's not a putting them down. That's a high praise from me. And here we move on to the album's title track, Evil Remains. Now, this song is where I first start hearing real Slayer-style guitar. There is, if you go back and listen to... what was I thinking? Yeah, I think if you listen to Nosferatu Nights or even Deja Voodoo, there's a real Slayer feel to some of the guitar parts because it's quite thrashy in its doom as well. Evil Remains here is more an angry kind of doom. It's got a lot of high energy. The riffage is brutal. The Elizabeth's vocals are mixed right up front. So it's what I love. It's the different back and forwards of the mix. It's not, this is when my vocal is I'm the star. It's what the song needs. And this song needs that mix, her to be up front. And I think it works. This is probably the best vocal on the album from Elizabeth, in my opinion. It makes you move. This song has the ability like Slayer does in me. Slayer always makes me want to headbang. It always makes me want to just get up and do things. And this has that dynamic dynamism to it. It's dramatic. The time changes here are probably the most dramatic on the album for me. They really are something that this band does very well. I've said before, and this one really shows you here. It's at very breakneck speed. The changes, I don't know how they do it. The drums, for the first time, I'm going to mention the drums here. Now, as I said, they don't have a full-time drummer. They have a drummer that records, and they have a drummer that tours. And the drummer here is just big. It's splashy. It's dynamic. It's not, by no means is it like Bill Ward, where it can overtake sometimes on Sabbath. It can just be demanding your attention all the time. Whereas the drummer here, he allows the music to breathe. He's a bit like no, I won't say that. I was going to say he's a bit like the drummer from the Police. I was going to say Stuart Copeland, but he's not that talented, and that's no disrespect. There's no one as talented as Stuart Copeland. What I mean is, Stuart Copeland's drumming is often in the background doing its thing, but not overtaking, but still there to be heard. And I feel that with this drum piece on this album, big splashy cymbals, not intrusive, using the whole kit, quite thunderous but held back, letting Elizabeth's bass, Matt's guitar, and Elizabeth's vocals take control, and the drums are just the syncopation holding the song together. And it really is a good title track in that respect. And then we get to Black Spell. This one, right off the bat, has a real maideny feel, a real Iron Maiden solo. The solo in it has a real feel of early Maiden solos, and that's unlike this album because their solos aren't over intrusive or fast or pyrotechnic. As I said, they do what they are meant to do. They give texture, and they give breathing space for the drums and the vocals. It's one of the fastest tracks on the album. It has a real traditional metal sound. It's very Northern. It's not as doomy as all the others. It's got a real when they sing Black Spell, it put a shiver down my spine. That there's a bit in the where they both sing the vocals, and it does it really. It had again that horror movie vibe, which I really adore. It had that underground 70s horror movie feel. There used to be a TV series in the UK when I was a kid or a teenager called Psychotronic TV, was it? I think Psychotronic. Anyway, it was a Jonathan Ross program where every week he would talk about underground films and directors like Ted V. Mickles and all this sort of thing, and there was a shop in Camden Town around the back of the inside streets. It's no longer there anymore, called Psychotronic TV, and they basically sold illegal. At that time, they're not illegal now, but they were then video nasties, like imported from Europe and Australia and America. And I used to go with my brother, and we used to go in the back room, like when there was no one looking, like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more, and we'd spend all our wages on these really awful, video nasties like Anthropologus the Beast and Ilsa She-Wolf of the SS, all this sort of horrendous but fantastic, gut-churning stupidity, this sort of real sort of out there wacky directed movies with wacky stories and terrible special effects. A lot of misogyny, unfortunately, but hey, that I don't condone that. I just, at the time, I loved it. Not misogyny. Don't take me the wrong way. I meant the movies. I'm not that kind of person, as you well know. No. What I'm saying is this sort of music goes to that. It has that kind of on the vanguard, on the edge, being very dancing on the razor blade, if you must, on the edge of a blade, be between traditional and doom. It really is something fantastic, and I absolutely love it. It's almost unrecognizable as a track on this album from the rest of the tracks for me. It's menacing. Matt's vocals are dark when it comes in. It really is a real Mario Bava-esque kind of music, and I hope the band, if you're listening to that, you understand where I'm coming from. I'm sure you do. I do have a real soft spot for horror movie theme music. I mean, one of my favorite bands in the world is Heads for the Dead. As you would know if you've listened to my show, I've reviewed a couple of their albums. I've interviewed Ralph Haber, from the lead singer from the band, and I am eagerly awaiting the new album that comes out very soon. He's recorded all the tracks. I've heard a little sneak preview of one or two of them. I'm very excited by that. So please, I do. If you love horror movies, you'll love this, all right? Anyway, moving on. We're going to 100 Eyes, okay? This is again, I think the vocals on this from Elizabeth are clean, dramatic, eerie, beautiful. They dance all over the place, right? They're almost Kate Bush-esque. Not in that sort of really high vocal range. She doesn't sing in high and low vocal range. She's a nice level vocal range. But what I mean is, it's that kind of siren-esque, cobwebs and castles, if you know what I mean. It's straight into the riffage with his. There's no messing about, right? Elizabeth has a sensational voice. It really has a 70s sound, really 1970s mix. It's not so polished that it loses its nod back to heritage. The drums help it along on here again. It's just helping keep the record moving. The bridge here is my favourite bridge on the album. There's something about the bridge here that I can't quite understand why it makes me. I stopped to listen to it again. I actually went back and listened to it, went back and listened to it, went back and listened to it. It's just the way that there's an ascending and descending scales throughout the track, but the it is what Sabbath would be if they were a small underground band. For me, and Matt's guitar tone, and I've not talked about this yet on the album, but Matt's guitar tone makes it, along with Elizabeth's no nonsense, straight to the amp, thundering, heavy bass lines. Matt's very similar. He's not flooding you with mounds of wah and, you know, over fuzzed so you can't hear the bloody riff. You can clearly hear the chord changes. You can clearly hear the dynamism and movement up and down the fretboard. You can hear their compositions meet and meld and dance with each other. And Matt's guitar tone for me has that. It's not complicated. And again, I keep saying this, but it's one of the reasons I love Doom, and I love it's because it's not complicated. You can have complicated Doom, of course you can, but if you listen to Saint Vitus or early Candlemass, Pentagram, you listen to those bands, there's a simplicity to it. Black Sabbath's the same, apart from Tony's amazing riff solos, which he can do. I mean, he's a god, so he can do both. But, you know, do what you do well. And Matt does that well. He does a beautiful, intricate, memorable riff that holds the song along. And he does it in 100 Eyes. I thought originally this was based on the movie 100 Eyes, but then I realised, no, I was thinking of something else. It could be. I don't know. I thought there was a Dario Argento movie called 100 Eyes, but then I looked into it and I think I was wrong. And it could be 1,000 Eyes is what I was thinking of. Anyway, Dario Argento is another director of the Italian horror genre. Makes beautiful music, beautiful movies, and this music would sit with. He uses Goblin mainly. Well, he used to use Goblin mainly. I've already done a program about that. But this stuff would sit quite comfortably. I can imagine this music in the background of some of the scenes in Suspiria, Tenebrae, Inferno, Phenomena. Opera even. Any of Argento's classic movies, Deep Red, Four Flies on Grey Velvet, Bird with the Crystal Plumage, all those movies. It could easily sit amongst those movies, and it would be comfortable. I do love Argento movies. Anyway, then we move on to second to last track, She. Again, I thought She was a movie, and I'm thinking maybe that's She, but there is. It's a Hammer movie, but it's like a murder mystery movie. I don't know if that is it. If you're listening, please, Elizabeth or Matt, please reach out and tell me. I'd love to know. Or anyone knows the band better than I do. She, Elizabeth's vocals are the hero here. Absolutely, it's gone back to being a non-traditional Doom track. Again, I love it. They're mixing their textures and their colours and their colour palette and their movement, and I think that's brave, and I think and it also keeps them excited and interested when they're playing it. Why would you want to play the same 4 chords over and over and over in the same sort of way? It'd be very boring, wouldn't it? This has a real thrash doom to it. I reckon they're making their own subgenre. Is there a thrash doom subgenre? I don't know. There probably is. That's just come off the top of my head then, but I reckon they do. I've written in big letters here, funky and groovy, and that is truthful about this song. It's really musical, has a great musicality to it, which, again, you lose with some of the Speedmeisters and the aggressiveness in our genre of music. It drags you kicking and screaming into the song. Matt's guitar is eerie, the tones are punctuate the song. Elizabeth's bass just holds along and it attacks you when you need it. The drums are not interfering but just hold the rhythm together. Great syncopation. Daring. This song is daring because it's not like, I don't think it's like any other song on the album. It's completely different in that respect. I think thrashy doom, yeah, it has a Slayer-esque feel to it. Has a Megadeth meets Candlemass. It has, it's almost like a bit like some of the early Sabbath albums, without the aggressiveness of that music, but with that kind of eerie, pop-esque feel. One of my favourite tracks on the album. And then we end with Cold Grave. What a way to end the album. And we started it, with that brilliant first track in Queen of Death. And then we end with Cold Grave. It's delicious. It's addictive. It's totally packaged and splashy, I've written. The drums are eerie and beautiful. The vocal is constantly wonderful. The time changes just blow my mind. Matt has his hands full with every single time change. How they both remember to turn when they do is just mind-boggling. It also doesn't let you forget how good Elizabeth's bass is. It's so good in this track. The whole album, in fact, is a masterclass on how to drive a bass line, punctuate music, but without completely overtaking or sludgying the music up. I think it's definitely it's cinematic. The whole album, this particular track is cinematic. It's cold. Interestingly, Doom is quite a cold, funereal sound, but this doesn't have that. It's cold, yes. There's a sense of detachment in a lot of the vocals in on this album. That's actually a good way of thinking about it. I never thought I didn't write that before earlier. But it's also very traditional and very clever. Now, none of the songs hang around for very long. 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. They're not taking on you extreme voyages of doom madness. It's there, it lingers, but it lets go. It holds on and lets go. It gives you enough space to want another one. Sometimes when albums have songs that are very long, and I do love prog, as you know, and some songs can be very long, which is the DNA of prog and prog metal. In fact, the trouble is you get to the end of something like, particularly tracks by bands like Neo Discography. I love them, right? But you get to the end of a longish track of theirs, and you go, okay, right, I need a breath. This is something, I'm going to listen to something different. I'll come back. Whereas this doesn't have that. This finishes and you're like, what's next? When's the next one? What's happening? Where am I going? No track is the same. It has a DNA of sound, like all musicians have a DNA. Of course they do. But it doesn't, it mutates almost. It evolves. It's the wrong word. It evolves from track to track and then de-evolves and evolves. And, it's a real sway of music back and forth. And Cold Grave has that way to end the album. And on that note, I'd like to say, please do get your hands on this album. It's on all streaming platforms. You can buy it from their Bandcamp. You can buy it go to their Facebook page. Castle was the name of the band. I said just Google it. You'll find it. I will put the links to their Bandcamp page and the bands I mentioned before in the show notes, and my Patreon link. As I said, please guys, if you don't want to pay the $5 a month, and that's Australian dollars, by the way, not American dollars. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. It's just about reaching out and helping me. If you can't do that financially, there is a financial crisis going on. I completely understand. We're all a bit thrifty these days. Do just like and subscribe. Give me a review. I get most of my reviews on YouTube now. When the show goes up to YouTube, that's where I get most interactions. I'd love more through Spotify and iTunes and directly to the page. That would be great. But keep bringing them wherever you do it. Positive or negative, I really enjoy interactions with you. It's all learning, isn't it? But don't be too mean. That's all I ask. Don't be so mean. No, it's all right. I hope you enjoyed this album, because I really did. Enough for enough. We hit the hour mark, which I like to get to. And see you next week. We'll chat with you next week. I've got some really interesting things lined up. I've got a few interviews lined up, which is going to be good. I'm getting ready to interview Petru from Apocalyptica for Metal Ruse tonight, because they've got a new album out. That'll be great. And in a few weeks' time, I will have that on the show. If you don't go to the Metal Ruse YouTube site to watch the interviews, I will upload it on my show here. Anyway, ciao for now. Talk to you soon, and listen to some really quality new Doom. Promise me you will, because you must. Bye for now.